Viewer discretion is advised. And we all know that Derion Vince had help. But if someone else was involved, wouldn't they have brought this person upon charges by now? Back in 2015, when the news crew came out to interview Brittany Bowens, how did they even know about a damn Brittany Bowens? Who called the news channel? I mean, that stuff happens all the time. How did she get on the news? And fast forward to the day, here it is, she's on the news again. I mean, this stuff, like I said, sounds kind of fishy, and she hasn't been charged yet. When they ask about Brittany Bowens, oh, we're not going to talk about that.
Then there's Brittany Bowens, Malia's mom.
Is Brittany in the clear?
I'm not going to comment any further on that.
Neither Police Chief Art Acevedo nor his homicide commander
I don't want to comment on anything about the mother at this point.
have much to say about Bowens.
Bill and Dominique, CPS got a complaint about a year ago, a little bit after little Malia received a head injury. And court papers say Malia and her older brother were physically abused and neglected by both their mother and their biological father. In just about 2 weeks, the courts were to decide if Malia Davis and her 6-year-old brother would be returned home to their mother, Brittany Bowens, or their biological father, Craig Davis Jr., permanently. Court papers show a CPS custody hearing was scheduled for May 22nd. They also show that little Malia Davis and her brother had been in CPS custody for the past several months. The court documents state, quote, Brittany Bowens has engaged in a history or pattern of child abuse and child neglect. Craig Davis has engaged in a history or pattern of child abuse and child neglect. Mother Brittany Bowens was allowed to visit with Malia and her older brother only once a week every Saturday, but the court papers show Father Craig Davis Jr. was not visiting with his children for unknown reasons.
Did Craig Davis, or didn't he, show up to see his children? I've seen the photos of Craig and Malia together at the hospital when she received those injuries. So why is the media trying to make Craig Davis look like a father that never came around? Was Craig Davis a little scared of Brittany and Derion? I've seen men with women that were stronger than them. And the things that went on concerning the few days that Malia was on this earth, where Craig Davis came by the house and how he was turned away. You know, I keep saying is that Craig Davis is not from the rough side of the tracks. In his interview, you can look at his demeanor, the tone of his voice. You can tell that Craig Davis is just not one of them tough guys.
I haven't spoken to the public because I can't talk about my daughter I can't control my emotions. I can't predict myself. I break down and I cry.
In a video posted to Instagram, Davis shared sweet moments with his daughter as he anguishes over her whereabouts now.
Good.
Investigators say Malia's stepfather was the last person to see her.
I'm not putting the blame on anybody. I just need the questions that aren't answered to be answered.
Craig Davis is not a tough guy. I heard that when they were conducting the search, that Craig and Derion had met. I heard that, you know, some people kind of got upset, but Derion didn't get his butt whooped. Because, let's be honest, if it was my daughter, and listen to the stories of what I heard and what happened and stuff. Hey, there's nowhere in the world I would let Darren leave without getting his butt whooped. I have to break something. But it was just a bunch of arguing, getting mad, name calling. But other than that, nothing happened.
There are so many unanswered questions. And it's not for the public to answer them for me. It's not for police officers to answer them for me. It's not for the news to answer them for me. It's for derion.
He says the same things that Brittany says. He wants some questions answered. At some point, reality should set in. And the questions that you want answered, are you sure that you want those questions answered? I would not want to know how my child was killed. I might want to know what got you upset just to satisfy my curiosity. But at this point, I don't need to know all of that. I just want your hide. That's all I want. So I don't understand why him and Brittany keep asking the same question. All I want is the truth. The truth about what? Your daughter is gone. When it comes to Brittany, you made a bad decision. You make bad decisions when it comes to choosing men. I can see that. And you made a bad decision to leave your daughter alone with derion. You made a bad decision to rile him up with those text messages. Craig Davis, he made a bad decision to get with you. And not only that, he had 2 children with you. He stayed there that long. And he made a bad decision when he did not demand to see his daughter when he came by. I don't know about Craig Davis, but I know that Darren Vince is a pervert.
While outside the car, he says 2 men pulled up in a blue Chevy pickup similar to this one.
One of them makes a comment saying that Malia looks very nice, looks very sweet.
Vince.
We all now know that that story was a lie. But truth is often told in lies. If it was a lie that he told, why would he say the men say that Malia looks nice and sweet? Those are the perverted thoughts that were in Darren Vince's head about his stepdaughter. To him, she looked nice and sweet. Since it was all a lie, why didn't he just say, I pulled over, some Hispanics hit me in the head, I wake up, Malia gone. I would have said that, opposed to, oh, she looks nice, she looks sweet. When people talk, I listen to every word that they say because they are using those words for a reason. And sometimes the words that they use can reveal something about that person.
Last August, the Department of Family and Protective Services received a report alleging physical abuse and neglectful supervision of Malia. She was living with her mother, Brittany Bowens, and stepfather, Derion Vance, at the time. She was living with her mother, Brittany Bowens, and stepfather, Derion Vance, at the time. She was living with her mother, Brittany Bowens, and stepfather, Derion Vance, at the time. The state got involved after Malia's mother brought her to the hospital with a head injury. Doctors had to do surgery to remove half of her skull. When Malia got out of ICU, doctors ordered that she wear a helmet for 12 to 24 months while she healed. But that was not Malia's first trip to the ER. According to records, 3 weeks earlier on July 10th, Bowens took Malia to the ER after she was throwing up blood.
When they took her to the hospital then because she was coughing up blood. I am wondering, did they check to see if she had bruises around her stomach area? Because that's what it sounds like to me, that somebody was beating her. And it was some type of internal bleeding, and she was coughing up. There were claims of child abuse when Craig and Brittany were together. And there were claims of child abuse when Craig and Brittany separated. And then there were claims of child abuse when Derion and Brittany got together. The child ends up dead. They may not be protecting Brittany Bowens, but it sure seems as if they are.
The very next week, on July 28th, Malia was back in the hospital for a cut to her forehead. Medical professionals reported she had blood just outside of her brain. Neither parent was able to tell doctors what could have caused it. Bowens said she was hurt after falling from a chair, but medical professionals said that would not have caused the serious internal injuries. Doctors reported they were concerned about abuse, but in the end, the court found they could not confirm whether or not those injuries were caused by abuse. The CPS caseworker noted she had reason to believe there was neglectful supervision on Brittany Bowens' part, but nothing more. Child Protective Services has had temporary custody of Malia since August, but they confirmed she and her siblings were placed with a relative in February. The court ordered that Malia's parents take a parenting class. According to those records, neither has done so. A judge revisited the case back in April. It's set to go back to court on May 22nd.
Police know Vince spent at least 5.5 hours on the road, crossed state lines, stopped on this tree-lined ramp of I-30 in Fulton, Arkansas. Did he go north to St. Louis, where he grew up, or back south? Either drive leaves 10 to 14 hours unaccounted.
He has a lawyer, so he's not going to talk to us unless his lawyer wants us to, and he won't talk to us. We'll have to see what happens at trial.
Claimed surveillance cameras caught him in his car getting out at Houston Methodist Hospital in Sugar Land May 4th around 11:20. Authorities say someone dropped him off. Who, why, and what charges they'll face are questions authorities will answer soon.
May 4th. Was Brittany home May 4th? Where was she during this time? What alibi does she have to prove her whereabouts during the time her car was seen dropping off Darren Vince at the hospital? If those cameras had footage of Darren Vince getting out of the car, I'm quite sure they have some type of, at least of image of the person driving the car. These hospitals just don't have one camera. They have them all in the parking lot. They see you when you enter the parking lot leading up to the hospital. So I'm quite sure they have at least an image of the person that was driving the car. And Brittany Bowens is not hard to distinguish from another person.
We saw the guy on Saturday at 7 p.m. I was living with my family.
She said she saw Darren Vince Saturday at 7 p.m. Somebody's been lying.
And I saw him. He was standing in his porch smoking. He looked at us and then he went inside into his apartment.
They've showed surveillance footage of everything else. I am wondering, do they have surveillance footage of that?
Jania Soto lives right across from where Malia, her mother, and Vince lived. Her surveillance camera caught him briefly walking over to his car alone on the day Malia's mother had flown out of state. Soto says she remembers clearly not noticing this bruise on Vince's head the same night Malia was reported missing.
He looked at us, and I looked at him, and he went back in his apartment, but he didn't have the big bruise or, nothing like that in his face. If I would have heard some screaming or or something. I couldn't done that something for the little girl. I have a 4-year-old, and it's hard to imagine this.
Eric and Myra, good evening. It has been quite a long process to see how investigators and prosecutors were going to move forward with Malia Davis's case, and today we learned what sounds like the next and final charge Derion Vance will face, causing serious bodily injury to a child. This after a full review of that autopsy that was just completed by the Harris County Institute of Forensic Sciences. The medical examiner determined the cause of her death to be homicidal violence. At the time, Vance was only charged with tampering with evidence Malia's body specifically. The district attorney's office assured us all along that pending autopsy results, we could see upgraded charges, possibly a murder charge, but that wasn't the case today. In their release, they say to us, after a review of all of the evidence, including the autopsy results, prosecutors determined there was sufficient evidence to charge Vance with intentionally and knowingly causing serious bodily injury to a child younger than 15 years of age. I also reached out to the district attorney's office to reassure that they are not seeking any further charges.
You said you called the district attorney's office not to see if there will be additional charges, but to be reassured that there are not additional charges. Why are they reluctant to charge Derion Vance with murder? It's like they want to find some cute names for murder without actually calling it murder. Because that's what the guy did. He murdered Malia Davis. But for some reason or another, these prosecutors or DA, whoever is in charge of this case, they do not want to bring murder charges upon Derion Vance or Brittany Bowens, but somebody murders his child.
I also reached out to the district attorney's office to reassure that they are not seeking any further charges against Vance. They did not get back to me, but based on the language of their release, expressing to us that they have reviewed all the evidence, it appears that this is the only charge, the only additional charge that they found probable cause for. That is the latest here in downtown Houston. I'm Stefania Coley, ABC 13 Eyewitness News.
If Derion Vance was seen being dropped off at the hospital, who drove the car, and why has that person been found? If that same car was found in a parking lot, who dropped it off at the parking lot? And when they dropped it off, where did they go? Why hasn't that person been found in charge? If Derion Vance went all the way to Arkansas, did he go by himself? If he didn't, who took the round trip with him? Why is it Derion Vance is the only one being charged when the evidence proves that this guy had help and assistance? Why aren't these people being brought to your justice? CPS has it written in black and white that at least Brittany Bowens is a neglectful parent. Why isn't she being charged with negligence? The hospital reports said that the injuries that Malia received were from child abuse. Why did the CPS attorneys overrule that and say, well, that ain't nothing, send her back home? In 2015, some mystery person bought Brittany Bowens' kids toys. Why wouldn't this same mystery person buy your child a ticket to your father's funeral? Derion Vince is guilty as sin. But Brittany is too. So don't let Brittany get away. And the people that assisted him, don't let them get away. The whole world is watching Houston. Everyone knows about the botched raid and the corruption that goes on within the police department. So people are starting to look at this case and just starting to see things that just don't add up. And they're starting to say, hey man, what is up with y'all's the police department? And I don't have an answer, because I see those things too. And Brittany Bowens has been walking around here too long. Joe Vince has been walking around too long. Those people should have been brought in for questioning. The people that are connected with Malia Davis that I've seen that have their heads down, it's not because they are sad. It is because they are filled with shame, because they allowed this to happen to Malia when they knew that it was going to happen. They knew Brittany was abusive, and they feel shameful because they allowed it to happen. Relatives, they usually have a blind eye when it comes to the foul things that their family members do. The ones that are abusive, the ones that are sexual predators, the ones that are thieves. Well, they're going to tell you about them. But those perverts, they don't want anybody to know. They'd rather you know that I have a thief in my family than to know that I have a pervert, or a child murderer or beater like Brittany Bowens. I have been noticing on my videos that I receive at least 5 or 6 dislikes. No matter what I put out, there's always these 5 or 6 dislikes. And I always say, what's the world without them haters? I don't care about you being upset about what I say, because you know who I am.
Dolomite, mother.